Today, we get to meet Shannon Kuykendall, an inspiring female entrepreneur on a mission to empower other female founders. As the founder of Link Her In, LLC, Shannon helps bridge the gap between small business owners and their marketing needs. She is a LinkedIn expert and trainer, lead generation strategist, and digital marketing partner, the perfect mix to ensure success for any startup. Welcome to the Living Life with Wendy podcast. I am so excited to have Shannon Kuykendall on as my guest. She is the CEO, owner, founder of Link Her In, LLC. I love the name of your company, by the way.
Thank you.
But, as I always love to do with all my guests, Shannon, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you love. And, let's get to know each other to start with.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Wendy, for inviting me onto your podcast as a guest. I'm honored to be here, quite honestly, and to be able to talk to you and to your audience. A little about me. I started my entrepreneurial journey 18 plus years ago. In fact, March of 2005. I allowed myself to get fired so that I could become an entrepreneur. Although I didn't really know it at the time, but it makes for an interesting story. But I started off as a virtual assistant. So I got hired on by a gentleman named Roddy Ferguson, who placed 10th in the 2004 Olympics for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so I would help him create his marketing materials. And that's what started it all. I figured out that I could help more people, that Roddy wasn't the only client I needed to have. It was me starting to develop that entrepreneurial mindset and then devouring as much information and content as I could to continue with my journey. Since then, I have become a full service marketing agency and then learned the valuable lesson. There was some big failure there. But learned the lesson of being able to manage your finances, trying to get off that feast or famine roller coaster, hiring the right people, hiring the wrong people. But that failure ultimately led to what I'm doing with LinkedIn. And at the same time that I started my LinkedIn journey, I also decided to travel around the world for 2 years. So, and that opportunity to travel really helped me build my business, because in order to continue to travel, I had to continue to market and make sure that I was helping people so that I could continue my travels.
Okay. Well, wow. There's so much in that introduction that I want to know more about you for sure. So you talked about something about the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey. And it started 18 years ago when, what did you call it?
I allowed myself to get fired.
I love it. Allowed yourself to get fired. So tell us a little bit about why you chose to be an entrepreneur, because I think there's choices along the way, right? You could have gone back into the corporate world, or you made the choice to become an entrepreneur. So where did that choice come from for you?
So for me, when I left, or when I got let go of the job that I held, part of being on unemployment is you do have to actively seek work. And so I was being very particular with the work I was looking for. I didn't want to commute. So I wanted to work in the same city that I lived in, or that I live in. And a gentleman reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, you sound like the perfect fit for what I need. I need somebody to process orders." He was a food distributor, exporter. The company was called Roland Foods. And he said, "But you're going to need to come to Beaverton." Well, Beaverton is about a half hour to 45-minute drive from me. And if I'm commuting, it would be like an hour and a half each way. And I said, "You know what? I really don't want to work in Beaverton." And he's all, "I only need you to come for a week so that I can train you on the tool. Do you have a home office? Do you have a computer?" And I said, "Well, yeah." He's all, "You can work from home most of the time." He's all, "I'll only ever need you to come to Beaverton for maybe a monthly meeting." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, let's do this." And so I did that, but it was only about 15 hours a week. So this is where the entrepreneurial brain comes in. Was like, all right, I need to find more hours. So I need to create some form of recurring income or another method of getting paid. And so I started doing research online, and I found a company that had virtual assistants. They would get the job and then they would send you out to go and perform the job. So, but when I started to think about it, I'm going, so they're the middleman. All right. I'm going to make $10 an hour. What are they actually charging? And I'm like, I'm a technical person. I can build my own website. Well, I can get rid of the middleman. So I built my own website. It was Creative VA Services at the time. Or no, it was At Your Request. That was the very first business name, At Your Request VA. I went onto a site called Guru, and then I think it's called Upwork now, but it used to be called something else. Put up my information, and literally within 48 hours, that's when Roddy reached out to me and was like, you have the skills that I need to build my sales pages. I want to hire you. And that was the first time that, because he's like, I'll pay you $1,000 a month to do this for me. And that at that time was like, this is huge. And I'm doing this myself. I'm not relying on anybody else. And so that was the beginning of it. And then after that, I was able to get more VA clients. And that's what I did. That's how I survived for 10 years. And it was at the end of that 10 years that I realized I needed to stop trading time for money. So, so many lessons.
So explain to my listeners what that means, because I've heard that term recently in one of my coaching sessions with one of my clients. What does that mean? When you stop trading time for money?
So when you stop trading time for money, it's when you have an actual service or a product that you can deliver that isn't going to take you any time. All right. Instead of someone saying, well, how much do you cost? And you say, well, I charge $50 an hour. It's really hard to charge $50 an hour and have 10 to 15 to up sometimes 20 to 30 clients that you have to take care of. There are not enough hours in the day to manage that. Somebody always loses, mostly you, and clients fall through the cracks. Clients will spend money and then you won't hear from them for months. And you're thinking, well, that's great. You sent me your money, but they're not getting their work done. So that doesn't look good on you. So create packages, how I develop mine for LinkedIn is it's an encompassing system that I manage for them. And then there's daily outreach. I reach out to them at least once a day to let them know this is what's happening within your account if they have new messages. And I'm not trading my time to do that. And I can actually take on more clients because I'm not trading time for money. And I know the other part to that is set up a recurring system where they pay you monthly instead of you buy 10 hours and you don't get paid again until those 10 hours are moved. It's another way you won't make money. So make sure you've got some sort of a recurring payment system so that you know how much you're getting every month.
I'm looking for my pen right now. No, I hope people heard that, right? Like, don't charge by hour, charge by package, and set up a recurring income for yourself.
Yes.
Two monumental ways to win.
And multiple streams. Like something, and I wish it hadn't taken me so long, but a lot of it had to do with me and getting in my own head. And we as entrepreneurs are really good at getting in our own head. But I finally turned my Done For You service into a course with guidance and support. There's about a year's worth of that so that I'm actually doing it with them instead of for them. And then they have my support when they need to pivot, when LinkedIn makes any changes, maybe they get stuck on something or they just need to brainstorm. They have me as support for that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And almost like an evergreen product, I'm hearing.
Ideally, yeah. And, and the way that I set it up would be easy to make updates as LinkedIn makes changes. I think that's the other thing that people kind of get in their head about when it comes to courses is what if things change? How relevant is my course going to be in 6 months, a year, 5 years from now? And it's like, if you structure your course in a way that allows you to go in and make specific updates without having to change the whole thing, you're going to make your life so much easier. And I used to build out these courses for my clients when I was a VA. So,
okay. See, I am actually making notes because I want to circle back to some of the things that you said. Okay. Okay. So I know as an entrepreneur, it's not always a straight road, right? There's bumps along that road. There's curves, there's twists. There's sometimes like things tumble across the road and get in your way. So tell me, have you experienced any obstacles along the way or challenges? And I would love if you have to share that with my listeners too, because there's like sometimes, challenge either gets us focused or absolutely gets us to rep, right?
Yeah.
So I would love to hear how you may have overcome some of those challenges if there were some.
So probably my first biggest challenge was managing the financial piece and not understanding, like I don't have a business degree. And so as an entrepreneur, I'm literally getting my MBA by feeling my way through things and screwing things up and breaking them or doing something really, really well. And so the financial piece was a really big issue that I actually didn't get fixed until the pandemic hit.
Okay.
And so that's probably about 15 years of the roller coaster ride of the feast or famine. And trust me, if you are experiencing feast or famine, then the famine is not a fun place to be. You're in your head. You're thinking, what am I going to do? I'm marketing everywhere and nothing's happening. So, it's just about being patient, and mindset plays a huge part to that. But what actually got me out of that feast or famine roller coaster was a book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. In fact, we'll do a free promo here for Mike.
Oh, awesome. Well, Mike might have to give you royalties for that one.
That'd be nice. I wouldn't mind. Because I love his book. It changed financially. It changed everything for my business. It changed the way I run my business when clients pay their bills and what that looks like when the cash flow comes in. It also, one of the things that I got from it was so everybody sort of goes through that paycheck to paycheck. And usually when you're at the end of the month, paycheck hasn't gotten there, groceries are getting low, you start to really make do with what you've got, you pinch pennies. Why don't we do that when the money's flowing? Why do we feel the need to spend it on new tools and the flashing, I call them squirrel moments, the shiny object syndrome.
The shiny new toys.
Yeah. So it was about taking that mindset of when you're in the famine phase and keeping that with regards to, is the systems that you have in place during famine working for your business? Okay, well, yeah, they are. Like everything's working. I don't need to buy a new tool. Nothing needs to get better. I just need this is the ebb and flow of a business. I'm in the ebb right now and I'm just waiting for the flow. I'm doing everything I can. And that's the thing. Make sure you're doing all that you can to get yourself out there so that you can get business and keep your business intact. So, but that was probably the first one. And then the other one was ultimately, that's how LinkedIn came to play, was that I needed more clients. Even though I was doing marketing for other people, I was the cobbler without any shoes. I wasn't doing my own marketing. And so that's how LinkedIn came into play. And then I was able to turn LinkedIn into a full service.
So would love to hear why LinkedIn is so important, because there's so many social platforms out there and there's so much noise. It could be Instagram, Facebook, there's so many social media. I think LinkedIn is very unique in what it does, but tell me why specifically LinkedIn?
Because I work with other businesses and that's where they're going to be, is on LinkedIn. I know that my clients are not on Facebook. I'm not talking. So Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for me, they're for the consumers. They're for the e-commerce space. All right. If I go onto any one of those platforms, I've got my credit card out because I'm prepared to buy something because inevitably something's going to catch my eye. It's like a new way of shopping. So if you're an e-commerce person, those platforms are for you. But if you're a business and you're service-based or even coaching, granted with coaching, I actually think you get the best of both worlds because you can be on Facebook. You can be on all of the platforms because coaching will either work with businesses or with consumers. So, but Sorry, where I lost my train of thought there for a second.
We were talking about the importance of LinkedIn. Why LinkedIn over other social media platforms?
Yeah. If you are a business offering a service to other businesses, then LinkedIn is where you need to be. And then I just got turned on to another place where you could actually go and share your content, and that's called Substack. And so I'm in the process of what I refer to as hacking Substack so that I can see if I can make it work for me. So.
Okay. I love that. So it sounds like you're like continually trying to improve, look at new things. So again, if you were to advise someone and, now we know LinkedIn as far as a service-based business is probably your preferred platform or platform. We can call it whatever we want.
That's true.
But so what are some of the things that like those entrepreneurs, those business owners should be looking at?
So if you're going to get yourself on LinkedIn and you want to start standing out, the very first thing that you need to do is you need to optimize your personal LinkedIn profile. All right. You are a business looking for other businesses to work with. You're looking for new clients. And so what I tell people, and it really depends on which LinkedIn expert you talk to. Some LinkedIn experts are brag, brag, brag. I'm not a brag, brag, brag. It needs to be an extension of your website because I am doing cold outreach via LinkedIn along with posting content regularly. They need to know who I am and what I'm about within those very first few moments of me asking to connect with them. And so you need to have a really nice looking profile. Think of how your website looks. Try and match that on your LinkedIn profile. Use your branding colors, create a background header. Your profile picture should only be you and should be you facing forward. All right. But you could put a fancy background color on it to make it stand out. But it's really, you've got to show up. Don't try and look for work or try and find clients and not have a profile picture up. You're not going to get anywhere. And they're going to think you're a bot or shady. If you feel like if you're hiding yourself. And I know for women, we do this, we hide ourselves. So what I'd like to say is don't hide yourself because you're not going to get the criticism that you probably think that you will. You're more critical of yourself than anybody is out there, that are on the platform. So.
Okay. And you know what? I love that because one of the things that really attracted me to your whole like aura and profile, Shannon, is that you focus on helping women, helping females with their businesses. And why is that important to you?
Because we're still in 2024, we're still underrepresented. We don't, like, I actually was reading a post today, which I thought was really interesting. And they were talking about women in STEM and science. And a woman in the post said, you know what, I was wondering why there were never any women in science. But the thing is the women in science were always there. They just were never recognized. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I want women to be recognized. And the only way for that to happen is for you to put yourself out there. All right. And I'm not saying don't brag at all. I'm just saying, because you can brag in your posts, you can talk about your accomplishments throughout your posts and the content that you're putting out. But when it comes to your profile, just be you're the representative of your business, and people do business with people
and your brand, right? Like I like that you said, creating that I like to use the word tapestry, but the threads that tie your website to your LinkedIn profile, to whatever profiles that you're on is really important because you are building a brand. And if you think of like even retailers out there, they do a really good job at building those channels, right? And creating the brand essence. So why not do it even if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or whatever? I think we sometimes feel like, why do we do that? What, in your opinion, why is there a disconnect?
I think that it's the lack of self-confidence. It's scary to put yourself out there and be rejected. It takes a very particular kind of mindset. A good example I can give you is last year, or actually at the end of 2022, I thought I would get involved in real estate investing, took the courses, spent thousands and thousands of dollars, only to realize I do not have the mindset to talk to regular people about selling their houses to me on the cheap. I don't have that mindset to do that, whereas other people do. But the mindset I do have, I know how to talk to other people who own a business. I know how to talk to other people who are entrepreneurs. I know how to talk to other marketers. So that was a very expensive lesson I learned. I'm glad I did it. And I know a lot more about real estate than I did before, but I got out before, too much damage was done as far as my finances.
I like that. The collateral damage. You know what? And I think that's a really good lesson to people, right? You have to really recognize whatever you're doing has to tie to your values.
Yes.
And if it doesn't feel right, it's like a guttural feeling. You're feeling stressed, anxious, just you're not feeling like it's a fit. You got to sometimes, pull the parachute cord, right?
And pivot, step back and think about what is like. So I started reading this book. It was really kind of weird. This guy sent me a message 2 years ago, and LinkedIn showed me his message finally, like this week. And he was offering me a free copy of his book back then. And so I happened to respond to it, but I didn't catch when he'd actually sent it. And so when he replied with the book, that's when he was like, oh yeah, I sent that a long time ago. But I started reading the book, and one of the questions that he asked, because most people are like, well, what is it that you want to do? That's such a broad question. And so the better question he had to ask was, what am I called to do? There's a huge difference in that. Like when I rephrased that and I wrote down, for me, help entrepreneurs build their business by helping them find and acquire new clients using LinkedIn. I'm called to do that work. And it was so easy to come up with that sentence after the right question was asked. So if you're an entrepreneur and you feel like you're struggling and you don't feel like maybe what you're doing is the right fit, step back. It's totally okay to pivot, and it's okay to pivot after pivot after pivot, because sometimes it takes a while to figure out what it is you're called to do.
Exactly. And sometimes we're afraid, right? So funny. I was just talking to a client before we jumped onto this podcast, and it's that sort of paralysis by analysis. Sometimes we can get so stuck in making the decision, or we're afraid that if we make the decision, we cannot pivot, that it totally, slams the brakes on our dreams, right? Or discovering what we're really called to do in to your point.
Yeah, asking the right questions, but also that being, just having it doesn't have to be perfect. Because I think that's the other thing. Women are also more on the perfectionist mindset. Like if I do this, things are going to be perfect afterwards. So get rid of the perfection, because none of it will ever be perfect. And be okay putting something out there that may not be 100% your best, because you can continue to improve it. Trust me, I've put out content that I felt like wasn't my best, but I'm on a schedule. I have promised myself that I will post on these days. So you know what? I may not be super thrilled about it, but maybe someone else will be. So I'm going to post it anyway. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just keep practicing at
it. I love that, especially with people that are utilizing, say, YouTube or a blog or whatever it is, right? Because I can see that holds them back. And it's really the fear of judgment, I think, that holds people from doing that. They call it perfectionism, because you're right. I don't think any of us think that anything is ever can be 100% perfect, but we are really afraid of the judgment, especially women that are putting themselves out there.
And that's where the mindset shifts have to take place. It's your self-talk. And, the recommendation at that point are to read books on how to get clear with your mind and to change your perception. Because they're really helpful. What is it? Think and Grow Rich. As old as that book is, it's still so relevant today because it plays such a huge part on your mindset. So
100%.
And your mindset will derail you. Like it will, if you are constantly worried about money, guess what? You're not going to have any clients come in because you're constantly worried about money. You have to be open and you have to allow things to flow. And you also have to be grateful for what you have.
100% gratitude is everything. I'm so glad that you said that. Now, Shannon, you did mention at the beginning of this, you have traveled. You're an extensive traveler, but I think it does tie in to sort of where you have landed in your career as well. So I love storytelling, and you shared with me earlier, you love storytelling as well. So I would love for you to share. First of all, I don't want to ruin it, but how many countries have you been to, and what amount of time, and what have you learned from that experience?
So I visited 22 countries in 24 months. And actually, it was probably a little longer than 24 months, but yeah, 22 countries, 24 months. I decided at the time that I was going to build my LinkedIn business to travel around the world. And I partnered with a company called Remote Year. And I traveled we started out at 38 people. The name of our group was called Sisu. And Remote Year had several other groups traveling around the world. So sometimes, depending on where we were at in the world, we had what were called travel days. We would cross paths at an airport and we would see other people who were part of Remote Year. So you have your travel family, but then you have this whole other, all these other different groups who are doing the same thing you are. So that no matter, you could literally be in an airport and say the word Remote Year and somebody would probably turn around because that's how many people were participating in the program. I started off in Southeast Asia. So I was there for 3 months. Hanoi, Vietnam was the very first place that I was at. You want to talk about a culture shock. We were also told that it's also the most difficult place for Americans to be because of the things that you see. You see people butchering animals butchering chicken on the sidewalk. You play Frogger when you cross the street. The food is phenomenal. Just make sure you go into a store to buy it. Don't necessarily eat the street food in Vietnam.
Oh. Good tip.
Good tip. Yeah, don't buy water from anybody on the street. Go into the store and make sure that the security cap is still there. And yeah, eat all the food. Vietnam was amazing. And so from Vietnam to Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I lived in a month in each one of these cities. So we spend a month in each one of the cities. We also have a city team that is with us at every location. And the city team consists of people who actually were born and raised in the city that we're living in for a month. Some months we had our own apartments, and other months we shared apartments with the people we were traveling with. And out of the 38 people that started with me in the trap for that year, there was about 28 of us that completed the entire program. And so, and I liked it so much that I signed up for a second year, but I didn't complete my second year, but I had done other things. So, but yeah, amazing. It was fantastic. Best experience. We had co-working spaces as well. So we the best Wi-Fi, because everybody that was on the program had to have some form of a remote work.
Okay. Very important detail there, because, if anyone's considering, hey, Remote Year sounds really fun, I love to travel, it has to be integrated with a remote type of job, right?
Yes.
So you had mentioned, Shannon, you were building your LinkedIn sort of business at that time, your marketing tied to LinkedIn. So what were the challenges? I would love to hear, because I think it's so cool what you did, right? What were the challenges? But more importantly, what did you learn?
So the challenges were in the beginning. So I live on the West Coast. So I'm 3 hours behind anybody on the East Coast. So wherever someone else is, it's an even longer time zone. So one of the things I had to accommodate was I have to take on a East Coast time zone. And in Southeast Asia, it's literally it's a whole day or half a day ahead. So that was a really big adjustment to work at 10 p.m. at night until 5 a.m. in the morning. That was really hard to do and still be able to go and do and explore the culture during the day. So that was trying to overcome that. Also, do I tell people that I'm traveling? How well will that go? Because I had people who were like, how dare you? You know, the audacity of me to be traveling, to be in some wonderful country and talking to somebody back here in the US, you know, who has children and is trying to build their own business. So I actually didn't tell people. There were only very few people that I did tell during my calls with them that I was traveling. And sometimes I would tell people after the fact, after they hired me, because I needed them to know and to be able to see that the work was still being done and it didn't matter where I was. So, and I think the other lesson when we were talking about mindset and money flow, so this all happened before I did the Profit First. So it was a struggle for me because it was $2,000 a month that for me to participate in Remote Year. It was a $5,000 deposit and then $2,000 a month. So that's rent. And if I'd never paid $2,000 a month for rent, it was like, what do I need to do? How do I need to get myself out there to make sure that I have the clients coming in and that I have enough money to continue on this journey and still build my business? So that was probably those are some of the struggles that I dealt with. And I learned that there are so many people like me all over the world. Like, it doesn't matter what color you are or where you're from, that there are entrepreneurs everywhere. Something that surprised me, that there were a lot of countries who were very active in recycling and taking care of the earth. You know, like just being exposed to those kind of things, because you think, oh, well, other countries, they're behind us. We're the best. I didn't find that to be true. I found that there were other countries that were far more along than we were when it came to environment.
Very interesting, right? You don't know what you don't know. And I think that's so important. And I think that's a larger lesson of our unconscious biases and what we believe in our perceptions. And so great learnings about yourself, right? And how you see the world. So how has that sort of helped you in your business?
It's allowed me to be a lot more open-minded to the people who reach out to me and want to connect. I'm a lot less judgmental. You know, it's not a face with the name. It's let me take a look at your profile. Like, instead of just like looking at their title and their face and seeing, okay, it's not a name I can pronounce. I'm not going to judge anybody by that. One, I'm going to learn how to pronounce your name because it is your name. It was your birth name. And then second, I'm going to check out your profile. Will you gain value from me, and will I gain value from you? You know, that's the whole point of the connection for me. So yeah, it's just about being very open-minded, and I think the big thing is people worry about people reacting. You know, they're afraid of the judgment, but they're also afraid of the reaction. So it's learning not to react and just be as warm and open and welcoming and not judgmental as you possibly can. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of brings you back. I hate to say this, but it's almost like, you know, when we only communicated with phones and not video, it was almost to our advantage, right? Because just, you know, our eyes can create what we see, can create so much bias, can really change the way we look at people. I think there's a lesson in that for entrepreneurs too, and how you need to kind of work through those unconscious biases that we have so that we can do better and be better for our clients, right? So I love that you shared that, and that time away was like that gift was given to you, right? In that learning.
Oh yeah. Because I feel like I was very, very judgmental, and I definitely was like, you know, at the immediate, like, nope, that won't work, you know, or I've been burned in the past. And it's like, we have to stop doing that. We have to be able to move forward. that was an experience. It wasn't a great experience, but I'm not going to carry that with me into my next experience. Like when I am on a sales call with someone, in fact, and they say, well, I had a bad experience with somebody prior, I don't really want to work with them after that because they're holding on to that bad experience. And the fact that they're letting me know that they had a bad experience means they're going to take it into the experience with me. And I'm not going to be able to prove to them because they've already made up their mind up here.
Like Shannon, if anybody doesn't know what you do, one of the things you've shared already is that like, know how to leverage LinkedIn and marketing. So tell my listeners, like, what you do, why it's important that they connect with you. Because I do think there's a lot to be said there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So what I do is I help my clients I will basically produce anywhere from 8 to 13 pieces of content a month for them. I know how to get people to engage with the content. I call it my LinkedIn magic. That's the first piece of it. And then the second piece of it is we do cold outreach to their targeted audience. And I can either do that for them, or like I said, I've turned it all into a course. I've hidden nothing. And basically the course will teach you how to get everything set up and running. And then through my coaching and guidance, I may basically help you optimize it and keep it running because LinkedIn will make changes and you will have to make optimizations based on those changes. It's inevitable. So I don't want to leave anybody behind when that happens because I know it's a little scary when it happens. So, but they can find me. Yeah. They can find me on linkerin.com.
Okay.
And there's more about my services. There's some testimonials there. I've got a newsletter they can subscribe to. And then there's just a little bit more about each services. And if they want to book a call, those buttons are there as well. And I prefer to talk to people first before I invite them into either a done for you or a done with you situation, because it's got to be a good fit. My goal is I don't want to sell the course just to sell the course. I want people to actually implement what it is that I'm teaching them how to do and to make the most of it so that their business continues to grow.
Love that. So I heard they can find you on LinkedIn, which by the way, what a awesome title for your business, like a name. Like
it came to me in a dream. It's just I do continued education, and I was actually doing some continued education with another LinkedIn expert who really focuses on content. And so it came to me in the dream. I immediately went to GoDaddy and was like, do you have a .com? And it was like, it's meant to be mine. So,
well, I just said, like you said, when you're building brand, right? And LinkedIn, like Corinne, like it's very, very cool. It's a great fit. And like, the other thing, if the listeners didn't catch it, was like, this is not your first company name. Like you've had iterations through time.
Oh, yeah.
And, I've coached people and they get so stuck in the name that it holds them back. And knowing that, hey guys, like here's proof in the pudding, right? You can change the name along the way. Your business is going to evolve. Your name's going to evolve with you.
Yeah.
Right. And your point of view changes. Like your logo is going to change as you kind of grow as a business. Like just be open to it. And I love that, you shared that. And if they didn't catch it, I definitely did. And I thought, wow, I have to call that out because that gets people stuck as well. Now, so they can find you on linkerin.com. They can also find you on LinkedIn. And how do they find you on LinkedIn?
So on LinkedIn, I'm Shannon T. Kuykendall. So just add a T between the Shannon and the Kuykendall from the video, and you'll be able to find me. So, or you can even type in LinkedIn, and both my company page and I believe my profile will come up as well.
That is
LinkedIn
awesome.
expert. Maybe I'll come up as that. I don't know.
So if you were to give anybody, like we talked about, like what we should do in LinkedIn, right? Like have that cohesive branding message. As far as marketing goes, what's your top tip as far as marketing for entrepreneurs?
On LinkedIn or any place else?
Well, let's start first of all on LinkedIn and then any place else.
So on LinkedIn, it's about showing up. You've got to create value and deliver content. And there's so many different ways to do that. So what I tell people is pick a schedule. You do not have to post every day. That is a myth. Also, I don't believe anybody can come up with really good content every single day. All right. There's going to be some in there. So pick your days and then be consistent. So for me, I post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that's it. And I stick to my schedule. I've only ever missed one day. And so be consistent and be persistent with it. It does take time. It will not happen overnight. I have seen people who've been consistent about their posting, and it took them almost 3 years to really feel like they were getting traction. For the services that I offer, we can get traction in 3 months because, again, I have LinkedIn magic. So I can get you engagement. And that means that if I can get you engagement, that means I can get eyes onto your content. And that's what we all need. We need to be, so many people will market to the 5% that are probably ready to buy now, but the likelihood that they're ready to buy from you is really small. So focus on the 95% that are seeing your content because you're getting your name out there. You're making them aware that you exist. They'll be back to you later because you provided value in their feed.
Okay. I love that. Consistency and persistency. I don't even know if persistency is a word, but I just made it up, I think. But consistent and persistent were actually what you said. And I think if anyone wants to write anything down, put those in capital letters and underline them.
So there's a quote by Harvey McKay that goes, if you are persistent, you will get there. If you are consistent, you will keep it. And I actually saw that on a co-working place in Marrakesh. And it hit me so hard. It is part of my signature. I share it with everybody because it's true. If there's anything to wrap your mind around, it's that.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't steal it now. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you can steal it. It's not my quote, but I just love it because it keeps me in motion.
Yeah. And, I'd love to get your thoughts because a lot of people are I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and they're very, very hung up on the avatar, identifying your ideal client. What are your thoughts on that? And what are the benefits or the pitfalls?
So it is helpful to really hone in on who your target audience is. All right. They used to put these sheets together, which gave so much detail that to me that those little bitty pieces of detail were actually irrelevant to a service-based business. They were probably more relevant to an e-commerce. So I think probably the best way to do it is think about who do you want to target? Like for me, I know I want to target other business owners. So how long have they been in business? Okay, well, I kind of want them to be fairly new, but maybe around 5 years in business, ideally. And they're struggling with their marketing. They want some help. That's what I'm looking for. And then the added on that, I just want to work with women. All right. So I join groups that are women centric on LinkedIn so that I can target them in my cold outreach. And everyone that accepts my invitation now becomes a connection and will now see the content that I'm writing. So
great tip, by the way. I love it. Connect with those people that fit your avatar, who you want to serve, who you want to sell to, or help.
Build that engagement. Yeah. And don't accept every invitation you receive. Think of your LinkedIn as a CRM, right? When you're building your email list, you're hopefully building your email list with people who are going to buy from you either today or tomorrow or somewhere in time in the future. So think of LinkedIn as the same thing. All right. Be intentional and be thoughtful about the requests that you're accepting. And part of my teaching too, is I do teach people how to use Sales Navigator to really hone in on who they need to target for their audience. So they get help with that.
Awesome. I love that. And, I would say that's probably applicable to other social platforms as well, right? That you should be careful of who you connect. Well, not careful. I'm sorry. Be selective, I think was your word, of who you connect with. Because there's a lot of stuff that comes into your invites and you're trying to build your audience, but you got to be discerning.
You do. Just, yeah, be intentional and be mindful about it. It's not about quantity. It's definitely about quality.
Yeah, because the algorithm is going to hold you accountable to that quality, right?
Until it changes again.
Until it changes again. I know. I see so many people, especially because I do live in the LinkedIn world, but also on the Instagram world. And you see a lot of people talk about algorithm changes that just drive social media marketers just crazy, right? So it's very interesting. But like you said, as long as you're going to pivot to the needs of that, complaining about change doesn't change anything. It just changes your mindset, right? Puts you in a bad space. So I love that you shared that you're being able to pivot and be limber through all of that, be fluid. And I think that's a great word of advice for anybody who is marketing on any of the social platforms. It's like, you just have to let the changes go and just kind of go with it.
Yeah. And there'll be more. I mean, the platforms are going to get restrictive. They're going to shadow ban. So, for me, that's what I like about LinkedIn, is because it is a very business oriented. So I don't see as much controversial posts as I would if I was on any other platform. So,
yeah, which can be a distraction.
It's a distraction, and it's can be disheartening because it makes you feel like, well, is this what LinkedIn's coming to? And the thing is it's one post. If it's not something you want to see, all you have to do is just click the button, and you don't have to see it in your feed anymore. So, and they don't get notified of that. So just
there you go, people.
You get to design what you want to see. Like,
exactly,
you can really make it about you.
Right. And really, like you said about mindset, it's so important to sort of be your own, gatekeeper in that area of your life, because you want to have the positive, productive sort of interaction with the people that you spend, with the time that you spend on social media, because it is part of business now, right? Yes. You can't just exit it altogether. So be mindful. And if something doesn't serve you, I love your attitude, Shannon. I'm like, you could just I can see why you're so successful, because I could see you being this advocate for your clients and going, just turn it off. Like, what are you thinking? So love that.
If they listen.
I love it, right? So thank you so much for spending the last hour with my listeners. Well, almost an hour, but I just want to thank you. I think LinkedIn is one of those platforms where business owners are a little bit more nervous because you don't get the same exposure that the other platforms get as far as how to increase engagement and all that stuff. In my personal experience. So, I think what you do, Shannon, is such a great service for those people who really need to move the needle in their business, especially those newer entrepreneurs. I love that you shared, honor the struggle. There's going to be times where it's going to be crappy, and there's going to be times where it's going to be amazing. But if you adopt that mindset of hey, operate the same way, even in your worst times as you do in your best times, what a great learning, right?
And you'll get through the bad times so much quicker if you do that.
Because you got that little nest egg, that little kind of contingency fund if you do that, right?
Well, and that there's a flow on the other side of that up.
Yeah,
I love that. That there's more coming. So
yeah, and it's a shame that COVID got you there to that realization. But it's amazing the journey you've been on, the travel, what it's taught you. I think we shared so many great ahas and learnings through your storytelling today. And I really appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you.
Because I'm hoping that the listeners see a little bit of you in them when they are listening to this podcast, because wow, you're such a great teacher. I could see you being a great mentor, a great, servant leader. Thank you so much.
Thank you for saying that, because that's something that's really all I want to be able to do is to be able to help people and get them on the other side of whatever it is that's holding them back from really being a success in their own business. So, and 90% of the time it's us, it's not the outside world, it's us. So whatever I can do. Like nothing would make me happier than to be able to help people do that. So, and I thank you
so much
for having me on your podcast. Like, I'm honored again to be a part of it.
Well, I'm honored to have you on. So we will ensure that everybody gets all of your links and contact information so that they can find you with one click. And again, I want to thank everyone for joining me today on the Living Life with Wendy podcast. Thank you, Shannon, for being a wonderful guest. And just remember, guys, like, stay safe and peace, and just like go out there and be your awesome selves.